have anybody else who would like to speak on the public hearing for the no parking zone on Tompkins Street? If not, we would call this public session for the no parking on Tompkins Street to a close. And we will move on to the second public hearing, which is to abolish City Code Chapter 258. And we have two speakers. And again, the first speaker, Thomas Keegan, I believe. And Tom, up to the podium, please, and you have 3 minutes.
Okay, thank you. I'll try to be very brief. I'm glad to see you guys putting forward this resolution. Your last meeting I watched online, which I'm very glad to see that you guys are live streaming your meetings. That's really good for the public. And I watched this section specifically twice that related to you putting forward this hearing for this and your discussions. And I just want to say that I'm in full support of you guys repealing the legislation through this resolution. I think you're holding the cabs and all the other businesses back with the price structures and all the things that you've put on them. So I just want to say I'm very glad to see that, and I'm very supportive of it. And I wish more people were here to be in support of that. Thank you.
Thank you, Tom. We have a second speaker, and Joe Schaefer.
Good evening again. It's so nice to see you.
Back.
I'm just curious, as a code junkie, actually, that you're removing this without submitting something in its place. Is there something in its place? Is there something going to be proposed to replace this whole section on licensing and protecting the cab person, the businesses and the community? I haven't seen anything. I don't know what you've discussed. Can you remove something as important as that and not replace it, or have something to replace it with?
As of now, there isn't anything.
Well, then I would ask that you not remove it until you have proposed something to replace it with. The number of people who rely upon a good taxi service, and I understand the reason for that, the number of people who do not have cars in this community who do rely upon taxis to get to grocery stores, hospitals, doctor's appointments, who rely on getting transportation from the bus station, because the bus station has got really strange transportation, that you not remove something as important as this, which protects the population and the safety of the cab services, without having something to replace it with. And I would ask that you would not do it, not perform any action until you have something to replace it with. That's all I wanted to say. Thank you.
And if I can relate, this does have to do because I believe in New York State, municipalities with less than 100,000 people have no control over Uber or Lyft. So the question arises to where if a municipality with less than 100,000 people cannot vet and cannot do anything with being involved with Uber or Lyft, then why are they regulating taxis when Uber and Lyft is basically the same type of service? So that is my understanding. Do we have anybody else that would like to speak on the public hearing on abolishing City Code Chapter 258? If not, we will call this public hearing to a close. It is now 7:08, and we will move on to the formal agenda for the evening. If we may all rise to call the meeting to order, salute the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And we have public comments this evening. And first on the public comments, Tom Gold. Tom, I think you know your way to the podium.
They use their 3 minutes, so I can add on to mine, right?
No.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. just have a concern that one of our citizens of New York is caught in a pawn game between the state of New York and North Carolina over their swim meet.
Yes.
And I'm not sure they're resolved, or they actually stay in North Carolina, or they have to stay in Virginia,
Staying in Virginia.
which is, she shouldn't be put in a pawn. You know what I mean? Just get Brian, tell Brian I'm sorry, but it's just, thank you.
Thank you, Tom. Second speaker, public hearing, Joe Schaefer.
She passes.
She passes. Do we have anybody else who would like to speak this evening? If not, we will move on. Mayor's report. And this is a very special evening. We are to celebrate the 30 years of one Sergeant Daniel Edwards of being with the City Police Department. If Chief Catalano and Sergeant Detective Edwards, please come forward. No? No?
Well, I know it'll be forthcoming.
Congratulations.
It either did not get counted up or.
10 more years, Dan?
I'll see you in 5 years.
I know it'll be forthcoming, but the city does give a recognition for that many years of service, 30 years of service from New York State for the dedicated service to the city of Cortland. All with the police department. I can't even believe 30 years has gone by with Dan here. He's gone through the ranks. He's currently one of our senior detectives in the Detective Bureau, and he's a guru with technology and computers, so it comes in really, really handy with all the technological crimes that occur in the city. And his solvability record is probably 90% with the cases that we give him. So I nicknamed him Hound Dog one time, and I don't know if it stuck or not, but he says, that's a heck of a nickname. But anyways, congratulations, Dan.
I would personally like to add, Dan, for many years, my business took me on the road overnight, almost 40 years. And it goes back far enough to where Detective Edwards was on the road overnight, and we would run into each other quite often. And I have to say, the city of Cortland is very lucky to have somebody who is as professional and who cares about the community as much as Sergeant Edwards. The only difference from those years back was this person's hair wasn't as white as it is now, and I don't really want to say that.
I had more hair, I know what you're saying.
Yeah. But again, to everybody, I'm very proud that I got to know Sergeant Edwards, and again, the city's very lucky to have him. So Dan, thank you.
a ticket once for driving on our side of the road.
No, you did not.
I'd like to say, I worked with Dan for 20+ years and had a great relationship with him. He was a very hard worker. When I was a detective, he was always the go-to guy as the patrol officer or sergeant to get things done. And Dan, thank you.
Moving on, and we have a proclamation. April is Fair Housing Month. Whereas, in accordance with Title 8 Fair Housing Policy of the Civil Rights Act of 1968 and the Fair Housing Amendment Act of 1988, and whereas the month of April 2019 has been designated by the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development Office of Fair Housing and Equal Opportunity as Fair Housing Month. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Common Council of the City of Cortland hereby declares and proclaims April is Fair Housing Month in the City of Cortland. Next is the approval of minutes. Do we have a motion? Alderman Carpenter, we have a second from Alderman Beckler. Discussion.
Yes, there was a draft that was sent out that included all 8 wards. The final minutes only included up to Ward 4. I also have a correction regarding the 8th ward. I did note that there are many potholes which should be fixed by DPW, and that's not exactly what I said. I said they will be fixed by DPW as weather permits. We know that DPW will get to the pothole, and they're certainly not gonna fix them in a snowstorm, so. I did state as weather permits.
Okay, I think Devin duly has that noted.
And I wasn't here, so I'm going to abstain from voting on this one.
Okay,
You still vote on it? Where? No.
any other discussion on the minutes? All in favor of accepting? Oh, yes, Trevor. Oh,
Yes.
yeah.
Yes.
Aye. Minutes are approved. Now to the formal agenda. Agenda item number 1, consideration of a resolution to declare a black 2012 Chevrolet Sonic as surplus property to be sold on Auction International. Motion to accept. Bill Carpenter, second Troy Beckworth. Discussion. Hearing no discussion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. No noes. Motion passes 6-0. Agenda item number 2, consideration of a resolution to appropriate proceeds from the auction of the 2012 Chevy Sonic to line A3 120.206.00. Motion to consider. Bill Carpenter, second. Troy Beckworth. Discussion. Hearing no discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes 6-0. No, I can vote.
As deputy, as deputy acting mayor, he can accept in the event of a tie, there's no one to break it.
Okay,
I already checked on this.
okay, thank you.
So it's 5-0.
5-0.
6-0. He does not lose his right to
I
vote.
will not lose, yes.
Okay.
Okay, agenda item number 3, consideration of a resolution to commit CDBG program income for the installation of handicap curb cuts at various locations in the city. Motion to accept, Katie Solomon, second, Kate. Cat. Sorry about that, Cat. Any discussion?
It's a great idea.
Yes, Troy.
Obviously, it's gonna be a very costly project and time consuming. Who's gonna be, as far as us or the city, maybe Crystal Stokey, so we can prioritize which one need to be addressed first.
I'm sure he has that under control, but here he comes.
Good evening. Just a question, the mayor's asked me to put together a RFP for this. I believe it's $40,000, $42,000, which will probably get us around 30 to 32 of these ADA accessible crosswalks. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put together a RFP to be bid, because it's over the threshold of what the city would allow to get price quotes. And then obviously, say that my RFP has 35 crosswalks, and the cheapest bid comes in at $45,000. I guess I'll leave it to the council to decide whether we're going to increase that money to meet the contract or to reduce the number of crosswalks that we're gonna install. This way you guys aren't locked in any extra money being spent. That's how we're gonna approach this, basically.
Thank you. Have you prioritized the crosswalks themselves?
We haven't prioritized, the mayor and I have a loose list, if you will. It has not been prioritized. Once we get that into an RFP form, then I'll release it for you folks to review and to discuss. Until then, I think everything else is premature at this point. I think tonight all we're trying to do is just procure the money so we can move forward with this program.
favor of the motion?
Aye.
Opposed? None? 6-0 passes. Agenda item number 4, and Chris might as well stay up here for the next few. Consideration of a resolution to encumber the balance of the remaining $10,791.67 in 2018 New York State CHIPS allocated funding to the 2019 DPW Administration Consolidated Highway Aid Account A5110-541500 to fund the 2019 New York CHIPS eligible construction projects. Motion to accept. Troy Beckworth, second Bill Carpenter. Discussion.
Obviously, everyone's aware that the New York State budget runs April 1st to March 31st. So it's 18/19 money, so unless it's encumbered or procured into the CHIPS line in the DPW budget, we won't be able to access it and use it for street improvements this summer. So that's basically what we're doing here. The money that was unused last year will be used this year. This will be used in our budget year, excuse me. We're still in the New York State budget year right now.
Any further discussion? All in favor of the amendment?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
Did you vote?
I moved very softly. Agenda item number 5, consideration of a resolution to transfer $37,000 from the general fund contingency account A11990-540000 to the DPW Administration Professional Fees account A5110-541500 to fund the remaining cost of the completion of the Madison Street Bridge project, PIN number 3756-13. Upon receipt of the New York State reimbursement, said reimbursements shall be refunded back to the contingency account. Motion to accept. Alderman Silman, second, Cat. Discussion.
We definitely see that money back at some point.
Oh, except for $1,850. I hope you
City
got my
share.
email.
Yeah.
That's our share of it.
Yeah.
And again, this is not above the bid price. This is just, as you all know, we had snow on November 19th. We couldn't finish the concrete work, couldn't finish the asphalt driveways, the ADA compliant ramps. Some of the guide rail has to be completed, and so this is the money that basically I gave back to the general fund, for lack of a better term, and then we're gonna encumber it into this year's budget. Again, once we turn the page from 18 to 19, the money has to be encumbered to continue the project. And again, $1,850 will be the city share of this portion of money.
And that's a sweet deal for
Yes, it
everything
is.
that you were able to accomplish.
It's a good
Yep.
deal.
Any other questions for Chris? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Thank you.
Motion passes.
Thank you.
Agenda item number 6, consideration of a resolution to transfer via an interfund transfer of $969,157.61 to the capital fund from the sewer equipment repair and replacement savings account, and appropriate said transfer to the capital project fund sewer equipment capital outlay account H8197-520601 to fund the remaining cost of the wastewater facility major upgrade project. Upon completion of the wastewater facility major upgrade project, also surplus funds in the capital project fund sewer equipment capital outlay account shall be transferred back to the ENR and our account. Motion to accept. Cat McCarthy, second Bill Carpenter. Discussion. And we have Bruce out there if anybody has any questions.
Really, this project has just been plugging along, and I'm happy to see that another big chunk of it's gonna be done.
Now, will this wrap it up, Bruce?
Yes.
Cause I see you down to the exact penny on this amount. So you're pretty accurate.
We made sure to get all the current billables and the remaining balances on the various contracts, and they are all in that total.
That's good to know.
Any further questions for Bruce? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? None. Motion passes 6-0. Moving on, agenda item number 7, consideration of a resolution to approve the local law for a no parking zone on Tompkins Street. Motion to accept. Bill Carpenter, second Katie Solomon, discussion.
Well, in light of what Joe Schaefer was saying in the public comments, I looked at it on Google Earth, and there's no sidewalk on that side of the street where Stupid Choppers is, all the way down past the railroad tracks. So perhaps they could be asked to move their cars back from the edge of the street so that people have a safe place to walk, but I don't see that as an impediment to holding back this resolution.
Well, it's a safety issue in Tompkins Street, that's definite. I mean, you go down there, it's all congested down there, people pulling away. It's a dangerous situation down there.
Yeah, I believe we've had some near misses, and I wanna say the chief said one accident.
People pulling in and out of the businesses there,
Yeah.
they need more site clearance, right?
Yes, as the alderman for that ward, I've been contacted numerous times. Next door to the King's Den is a couple, the Barneses, and Kathy Barnes is a retired city police officer, and her husband Gene Barnes is retired state trooper. And they've been on me for some time now, for years, about the danger that is posed right in front of their house and across the street. Numerous times how they've seen students do U-turns right in front of traffic. People having trouble pulling in and out of driveways as far as sight lines. And we do have a new business that has occupied the spot on the north side of Tompkins Street that has increased business already, and he's doing a considerable amount of work in upgrading the property to increase the value of the property. So, if there's no more discussion items, Troy?
Just one quick question, I didn't see, I'm trying to find, oh, I overlooked it, but we did include both sides of the street, correct?
Yes.
We did. I didn't catch that, but, okay.
Yeah, the signs are already out.
What's that?
The signs are already out.
What are we voting on it for then?
No, I don't think the signs are out yet.
I was just there 20 minutes ago. The only sign that's there is the bike path. That's on.
Yeah, there's no parking signs out there.
I beg to differ, I saw parking signs just after the tracks when I went down through there Saturday.
Chris still here?
So Chris left. I know Nick was waiting to hear back from the state DOT.
If,
Now, I don't
They're
think the
white
state
with
DOT.
red letters.
Chief, are you checking on that for us?
I mean, either way, we have to do a vote on it.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Chief Catalano, are you gonna, the patrols are gonna enforce that as they see fit? Are they waiting on complaints? Are they just gonna actively enforce it?
No parking?
Yeah.
They'll enforce it. If it's no parking and cars are there, they'll take it.
And again, too, this won't take effect tomorrow because it's a change to the local law, so this has to be filed through the clerk's office with the state. So generally, you're talking about a week to 10-day turnaround, I believe.
10
days.
Maybe we could put something, advertise that there's a new law and get the word out that way, but.
Well, and
If you want
again, I
certain-
have not heard back from Nick Dovey as far as yet as if,
If anybody wants a grace period, we could work within that, but at some point, you've gotta enforce the law. Thank you.
Yep.
any more questions? All in favor of the item?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Agenda carries 6-0. Okay, agenda item number 8, which then I'm going to ask council if after this agenda item, if we can add an agenda item immediately after, okay? But agenda item number 8 is consideration of a resolution to lift the hiring freeze for the fire department. Motion to accept. Bill Carpenter, second Katie Solomon, and Chief Glover is coming up for a discussion.
Good evening.
Evening.
Thank you for hearing my request. 2 or 3 weeks ago, I received a letter from one of my senior staff indicating his intention to retire. And typically, I would not ask to replace him until we got closer to his retirement date. Subsequent to that, I found out another one of my staff is going to have a workers' comp surgery, which could last anywhere from 3 to 6 months, depending on what they find. In discussing that with the mayor, he said, well, go ahead and start the process, we'll get it on the agenda for tonight. Because at that point, I didn't have the surgery date. Late this afternoon, I found out the surgery date, and so I guess my request would be not only to lift the hiring freeze, but to go ahead and proceed with the hiring.
So I guess that's what our next item
That
is.
would be our next
Correct.
agenda item.
This is 8A and that's 8B. Okay. Yeah. Do you know when the retirement is?
May 30th.
Okay.
Most likely it's gonna take you that long to find somebody anyway, or you already got a few guys. in
There
mind?
again, after discussing it with the mayor, I'd already started the process of canvassing potential candidates, so we've already got a list of potential candidates. And so with that helped accelerate things, as well as finding out the surgery date. Now that I have the definitive date, our plan with the mayor was to come back the first meeting in April, but now that I know the surgery date, because at that point I didn't know when the surgery would come. So, yes, we're ready to rock and roll on hiring somebody.
Great.
Any more questions? All in favor of the agenda item?
Aye.
Opposed?
Thank you.
Motion carries.
Thank you.
And this would now be agenda number 9, which would be consideration of a resolution to hire, a new firefighter? for
Hire a
us?
new firefighter.
Hire a new firefighter for the City of Cortland Fire Department. Motion to accept. Bill Carpenter, second Alderman Michaels, discussion. Hearing no further discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you again.
Thank you, Chief.
Thanks, Chief.
Oh, agenda item now number 10. Consideration of a resolution to authorize the mayor to execute a lease agreement with Madison Cortland ARC for the office space at the Armory on Wheeler Ave. Motion to accept. Bill Carpenter, second Kate McCarthy, discussion. This is just a yearly
It is, it's a
renewal.
little different because it's a little more housekeeping than that. It's going to be a short-term lease, just to get onto a year basis. You're gonna see it again in mid-summertime, another one for a year.
So they're gonna
it's-
run, calendar year.
Correct, right, but no changes, the same office space at the Armory, same rent amount. So-
Yeah. If there's no further questions, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Agenda item number 11, consideration of a resolution to waive the $10,000 in accrued code enforcement receivable and interest thereon for vacant building penalties on property owned by NYC REO LLC at 26 Cleveland Street. Tax ID, government and numbers, 087-37-01-19.00000 to sell said property to a responsible owner to facilitate the process of returning the property to productive use. Motion to consider, Bill Carpenter, second. Katie Silverman, discussion.
Mac, will you come talk to us about this?
What can I answer?
Well,
So
no,
they
go ahead.
They
Yeah.
can't sell it and give us our 10,000 off the top?
Obviously, they're not. I'm not doing this transaction. This is Bill Knickerbocker's doing this transaction. It's under my name.
Oh, okay. Yeah, because your name's on the item. But
Pardon me?
Bill's not here
Bill's
tonight,
not
your
here.
name is on the item.
That happens.
Okay.
I just know right now it's one of our 700. You saw a wide variety of emails going back and forth between one of your constituents this morning. We have 700 and some, no, we have 800 and some vacant properties beside the city. This has been a normal transaction for us for the last 4 or 5 years since we've had the vacant buildings to waive to get them back into productive use. Right now, the building is vacant.
That was all fine and dandy with all this until the city had to cough up about 16,000 to tear down a property here, just, the last meeting. I would like to see some of this money set aside for, these rainy day events, if possible.
Council can do that. It's a budgeted item in your revenue. So if council wants me to put a motion together that will move X amount of money out of code and put it back in your contingency account, we'll have that on next week's agenda or next meeting's agenda.
Any further discussion?
I understand that there's been a precedent and that the goal is to get people into this building, into the house and
I'm not advocating one way or the other.
paying rent. But I just, like you, I feel like, couldn't we get some of it back?
Well,
That'd be a Rick question.
well, I'm thinking, this,
Well, we keep this throwing, we just keep letting these people not pay this money.
I would suggest that you table this. We could talk
Need some more
about,
clarification.
we could talk about a little bit about the vacant building, perhaps next week.
Well,
The
we
vacant-
have had precedent where we've been waiving the fees, okay? This was really started, the vacant fee fine, whatever you might wanna call it, was really started back when we were noticing that quite a lot of the houses that were vacant, the mortgages being held by third-party mortgage companies that were not maintaining the properties. And then some of them started to notice this additional fee and then did start to make sure that the properties were taken care of. And then they moved the properties much faster. And the goal of this program was to always just make sure somebody knew who was in the house, that a sale of the property was not held up because of the vacant fee. And now for numerous years, or at least the last 2 to 3 years, every one of these that has come before council, we have waived, and it has been a success as far as getting the property back occupied and improved. Very few, very few of these vacant fees have ever been paid.
I was fine with that until we started using taxpayer money to tear some of these properties down. And the last one was, if you recall, was Carlos's ward here at the last meeting.
Yeah.
I don't think that.
Just so I can be clear, the property we're tearing down is not like this because we own that property on Harmon Ave. That's a city-owned property because we took it into tax foreclosure. So it's entirely different than a vacant house. It was never on the vacant house registry. It was lost in foreclosure. The city owns it, and now it needs to be torn down so we can market that lot. These other properties are existing structures, and it's not so much the impetus to sell as it is the impetus to buy that we do these waivers subject to the closing on the house. I think you're going to see another one that comes up that the seller wants to get rid of it, but the buyer is is not wanting to inherit that vacant fee and may not buy it and may not be a productive, return it to productive use. And I think that's what Mac's theory has been, and I think he's right about that. And so that's what I would encourage you to consider, that this is, it's not an impetus to sell. These people have vacated the property. This is the impetus to buy, and getting it to a place where we should be on these things, and helping return it to productive use.
And I appreciate that, and so forgive me if I'm just speaking ignorantly, but I have a question.
Sorry.
So why can't some of those funds come out of the sale price? If the seller can't afford to pay for it, they're
Yeah.
getting money for the
My
house.
suggestion would be table this one and table the third one. I can speak to the second one, and I would table the first and the second, and then allow Bill Knickerbocker to come up with a history. All I have on the first and the second is what I was able to pull off of the property. I can speak to the second one at length, why we're doing this one. I cannot speak to the first and the third one.
Well, I could speak to the third one, it's in my ward. But again, right now, we're not on that one.
Okay, so let's table this one until we can talk to Bill. Okay,
Yeah.
so can I move that we table it until the
But we have
next
to-
council
You have to
meeting?
rescind
We
the
have to
original
rescind.
motion.
Okay,
Who was the first motion to accept? Was it Bill?
I'd like to rescind.
I'd like to rescind my second.
All in favor of tabling?
Aye.
Opposed? Nay. Motion is tabled, and should we plan on this at the April 2nd council meeting?
Did you guys motion to table? I didn't hear a motion.
I'd like to move that we
Thank you.
table
Yeah.
this until the next city council meeting. I need a second.
Yeah. Okay. All in favor of holding it at April 2nd?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, moving on then to agenda item number 12. Consideration of a resolution to waive the $15,000 in accrued code enforcement receivable and interest thereon for vacant building penalties on property owned by Apex Tools at 43, 45, and 47 Cleveland Street. Tax ID number 87.37-02-06.000 to facilitate the transfer of said property to a responsible owner to facilitate the process of returning the property to productive use. Motion to consider. Bill Carpenter, second. Tom Bennett, discussion.
Do we have a buyer for this property, Mac?
There's a buyer, they're paying $22,000 an acre or $22,000 for the two parcels on that property. That property has a long and storied past. It has manufactured almost everything possibly that can be manufactured back to the Civil War. $22,000 an acre is below the assessed value. However, there's $1.5 million in demolition cost on that property, plus unknown environmental hazards through its 200-some years of industrial use.
And all of that's gonna be taken care of through the new responsible owner.
It was offered to the city. The city has nowhere, on the condition that we would absorb the demo costs and the environmental liability. We're not in any position to do that. It was offered to the IDA to take the property. The IDA is not in any position to put $1.5 million in demo costs and assume the environmental liability.
So is the new owner going to assume that responsibility?
He will assume the demo cost because if he wants to move that property, and once again, this is a national LLC out of Arizona, they buy these properties. If they don't want to sit on that property for their life and being, they will have to demo those buildings. Those buildings are totally invaluable for future commercial use. They cannot be converted to anything. They have to be taken down. The new owner owners will assume some of the environmental liability. Cooper's Tool out of South Carolina, which currently owns it, will have some of the current liability if it does, if underneath the slabs it runs hot, if there's an environmental issue. Cooper's Tool has been very, very responsible thus far in cleaning, remediating the properties around the buildings. What happens, I don't want to put anything that, I don't want to put a representation that you're going to see that building come down if you approve this. It may come down or may not come down, but it will depend upon if they can market that to, if they can market 17 acres in central New York to another entity. At that point in time, if they can, I am sure that the new entity will want those buildings down.
But in the meantime, they're responsible for the environmental, whatever hazards exist on the property. The city doesn't want it. In this case, I consider that a good deal.
I don't think that anybody's gonna assume all the responsibility for the environmental stuff, but I just thought.
Sounds like between the owner and Cooper, they're gonna share it.
They'll have the environmental law assumes the responsibility is all past buyers and current holders. So the Cooper's Tool has some certain liability on this property. Former owners, Brewer Titchener, but Brewer Titchener no longer exists, will have some liability, but what are you gonna do? So Brewer Titchener, that no longer exists. Cooper's Tool is an ongoing entity. They recognize that liability. If there is something under the slabs. So far, like I said, Brewer Titchener has cleaned up all the vacant property to the satisfaction of the DEC.
Now, was not to say that they buy the property in good faith. They're able to flip it for 1.5 million, and we're still out 15,000.
If they flip it for 1.5 million, that's very good, because then the assessed value will come up to $1.5 million versus what it is right now. On a tax certiorari case, if they move, they would probably have that down to almost zero. So I'll take $1.5 million flip, because then it's back on the tax rolls for $1.5 million. I'll take that deal any day of the week.
Yep, me too. Good answer. Actually, it was the answer I was looking for, so.
Do we have any?
Well, something's gotta be done with the property, that's obvious, and
Yeah,
I living down there,
Moving forward,
you know, there's, the light, the power, I believe is turned off now, there's no outside lights on at all at night now,
Yeah.
so,
Well, this is the first step.
you know.
Yep.
This is the first step to have a broker, national broker, to offer to buy it, and put it out there nationally. Any further questions for Mac? No further questions? Then all in favor of the motion, or all in favor of the agenda passing, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Thanks, Mac.
Motion passes. Agenda item number 13. Consideration of a resolution to waive the $20,000 in accrued code enforcement receivable and interest thereon for vacant building penalties on property owned by Daniel Mullins at 203 Tompkins Street, tax ID 096-24